All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Actually, I'm sorry, we have to do a roll call. All in favor? Ms. Davis, could you please call?
Mr. Reimer?
Aye.
Mr. Vaught?
Aye.
Mr. Pagano?
Aye.
And Ms. Cunha? Aye.
The motion is carried. We're now in open session. Could you read the certification of closed session, Mr. Buck?
Whereas the New Kent County School Board has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and whereas Section 2.2-3711 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by the New Kent County School Board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now therefore, be it resolved that the New Kent County School Board hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from an open meeting requirement by Virginia law were discussed in closed meeting, to which this certification resolution applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed session meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the New Kent County School Board.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion to approve the certification of the closed session?
I make a motion that we approve the closed session.
And a second?
I second the motion.
And a roll call, and Mr. Pagano is not voting on this roll.
Yes, that's correct, Mr. Pagano. You're not voting on this one. Yep.
Mr. Reimer?
Aye.
Mr. Vaught?
Aye.
Ms. Cunha? Aye.
The motion passes. Okay, I would like to welcome you all here tonight, as well as those of you watching from home. We have a couple absences today. Ms. Dombrowski is excused from tonight's meeting. She's away for her son's wedding. And Mr. Pagano will attend virtually tonight due to an illness, and pending our vote. So now, do I have a motion to allow Mr. Pagano to vote virtually?
I make a motion that Mr. Pagano be permitted and allowed to vote virtually.
And I second that motion.
All in favor? I'm sorry, Ms. Davis?
Mr. Reimer?
Aye.
Mr. Vaught?
Aye.
And Ms. Cunha? Aye.
The motion is passed. Mr. Pagano, you can now vote with us.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, tonight we have our Pledge of Allegiance from George Watkins Elementary School. Could you guys please come in and lead us?
Actually, Mr. Reimer, we got a little bit of an audible here. I believe we have our Corps Cadets that's going to help us out.
Oh,
Is that
I'm
correct?
sorry.
No, that is on me. So we had a switch, and Corps Cadets are so dedicated, even though their instructor had to leave town via emergency, still showed up to do the pledge. So if she's that dedicated, we're bringing her to the front.
So, thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Reimer, if I may, can I call her back to the podium? Can you come back to the podium, please? You know there's no way we're going to let you stand at a podium and not tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sorry about that.
Just introduce yourself. I know you're speaking later, but just introduce yourself real quick.
My name is Cadet Lieutenant Commander Carey. I am a senior in high school, and I plan to go to college and major in chemistry and pursue a commission in the Army after high school.
All right, see you later.
We're now going to move to our presentation and recognition. And our spotlight is Spotlight School of George Watkins. Ms. Zarek? Zarek? Is that correct?
All right, come on. I believe she's bringing some additional helpers with her.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board, and Dr. Nichols. It is our honor to present to you tonight some of the attendance and citizenship initiatives that we have implemented this year. I'm going to turn it over to the chair of our multi-tiered System of Support Committee, Mrs. Parker, to explain further.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board, and Dr. Nichols. Last year, our committee worked with the leadership team to revise our school-wide expectations while also refreshing our classroom and school-wide PAW. Students can earn individual and class PAWs for displaying positive traits. And this year, the committee focused on improving attendance as well as recognizing individuals more at the school level. To talk about our student spotlight is Sebastian Haddad.
Good evening. Each month, our teachers pick a student who has displayed consistently the citizenship traits outlined in ROAR: respect and acceptance, ownership, awesome attitude, and responsible choices. We get our picture taken with our certificate and get to choose a prize. We also get to attend a glow party at the end of the month. Mr. Gibson turns out all of the lights, and we can move around playing glow volleyball, glow golf, or glow bowling. Even the jump ropes and footballs glow.
And don't worry if you don't be chosen. And don't worry if you don't get picked for the student spotlight. You still have a chance to be chosen to receive free tickets to one of the Spider game at the University of Richmond. We get to go with our family and see other schools' name on the Jumbotron. Next, to talk about our perfect attendance lunch is a roll-on. Each month, students who receive perfect attendance get to eat lunch on the stage with all their friends. Miss Kay puts on some cool music for us and we have a good time. To get perfect attendance, you have to come to school every day and can't leave early a single time. My favorite thing about eating on the stage is that it's quieter than the cafeteria. It is hard to do, but I'm very proud I was able to do it 3 times.
Did you know that our chronic absenteeism dropped from 23.5% in 2022 to 7.9% last year? Our goal is to do even better this year. Next, I'm going to talk about our house attendance competition. At the beginning of the year, we partnered with another grade level and came up with a house name. Kindergarten and 5th are called Kinder 5. 1st and 4th are called Persistent Pirates, and 2nd and 3rd are Wildcat Wonders. Every Friday, Miss Kay announces which house had the highest average of attendance for the week. The winning house gets a paw displayed on the board. At the end of the quarter, the house with the most paws gets a special event.
The first event was camping in the cafeteria. We got to bring sleeping bags, blankets, and pillows, and camping out to watch a movie and eat popcorn. My favorite part was the popcorn.
The second event was game day. We got to bring in our favorite game and play with our friends from our grade level and the other grade level. My favorite game was Jumanji. Next, we have Berkeley to tell us about the Resource Weekly Award.
Good evening. Each week, the research teachers decide which class from each grade level displayed the best ROAR traits. Classes are announced on Friday, and a gold paw bronze medal is hung outside the classroom door for the week. My class has won 5 times.
That's our game day slide. We just fell behind a little bit, so I wanted you to have a chance to catch up. Here's our resource slide. And now, last but not least,
We hope you have enjoyed learning about all the fun recognitions we have going on at George Watkins that focus on just how wonderful we Wildcats really are. Thank you, and we invite you to participate in any of our future events.
Thank you, George Watkins. Thank you, young students. You guys did great. Let's give them all another round of applause.
Mr. Reimer, I have attended a glow party, so I will send you an invitation. It is something. So Mr. Gibson does an incredible job. Okay, so Mr. Vaught, you will get the invitation to the glow party. So. Try to go wireless. We'll see. So good evening, everyone. It's hard to top George Watkins, but I think I have something that can do it. We have some of the most phenomenal teachers in the world here in New Kent. Tonight, we're going to recognize several of them. So I have Mr. Reimer, our chair, is here as well. So we're going to start with our George Watkins Teacher of the Year, and that goes to none other than Miss Rita Urema. When the line leader lines up, everybody else will fall in line. So that's why I picked Rita first. That's perfect. All right. Our Quinton Elementary Teacher of the Year, who does masterful things with pre-K, Miss Lauren Burkhead. Hold. New Kent Middle School, we have none other than Kathy Cederholm. And Ms. Cederholm has one of the most awesome supporters here in the audience right now. Congratulations. Oops. I blocked it out, sorry. New Kent High School, I've said, has taught me everything I know about ceramics, which isn't much, but if I know it, it's because of her, is Sue Musselman. I'm
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And our final Teacher of the Year comes from New Kent Elementary, and I saved this for last, so if you want to know why I went out of order, this is why I did, because we also have a division-wide Teacher of the Year. So incredibly awesome teachers, but we have to select one, which is the hardest thing to do. So if you're selected at your school, that comes from your colleagues, which is a huge honor to have your colleagues name you to be Teacher of the Year. So it's amazing. And at the division level, we sit around and look at the applications and everything, and then have to select the best from the best, which was incredibly hard to do. But our winner comes from New Kent Elementary, and that is Lori Hill. And Lori, you also get this amazing figure, starish. So Lori goes on to represent us at the regional level. Last year we did have our first ever Region Teacher of the Year, so we'll see if we go back to back. But incredible teachers that make this place an amazing place. So thank you. Once the paparazzi's done, you'll be good. So. We will honor them again later on in the year at Team New Kent Night, so this is just one of many moving forward. Sorry. Welcome back. We also have another Teacher of the Year, Educator of the Year recognition. This one came as a surprise to us because it falls outside of what we do as a school division. So Malcolm Mitchell, who played for the New England Patriots when they beat the Falcons in the big come-behind game. I think he had 7 catches for 70 yards. He has a cool Super Bowl ring. He came and talked to our kids. He has a foundation called the Share the Magic Foundation, which is all about getting kids to read. And from almost 10,000 educators, we had a teacher who was named the National Teacher of the Year, which is an incredible honor. So we wanted to recognize Ms. Tamika Hathaway. You got to take paparazzi pictures first. You know, Mr. Wheeler has his camera. He's ready. All right. Let's give another round of applause for all our amazing staff. Taking this out is easy. Putting it back is...
Next, we are going to be talking about National School Council, February 5th through 9th.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Chairman Reimer, members of the board, and Dr. Nichols. In recognition of National School Counseling Week, I'd like to give a brief shout out to Ms. Reed, one of our counselors at George Watkins, Ms. Fisher and Ms. Cochran at New Kent Elementary School, Ms. Carreras at Quinton Elementary School, Ms. Outhouse and Ms. Malone and Mr. Hodge at the middle school, as well as our high school, rounding us out, Ms. Richardson, Ms. Dwiggins, Ms. Allfield, and Ms. Nixon. I just want to give a shout out to our counselors and thank them for the work they do. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have recognition of National African American History Month, February 2024.
Yes. Good evening, members of the board. Sorry, didn't need the stool.
You didn't need the stool tonight?
Sorry.
Okay.
Okay. So, members of the board, Dr. Nichols, thank y'all. It's my pleasure to come before you and talk a little bit about what we're doing to celebrate African American History Month for the many contributions the African American community has made to country and state and county. And so we have different things going on in different buildings, but in our elementary schools, we're going to be having things, presentations during our morning meetings, that in our classes where they'll be learning about different African Americans and their contributions. At the middle, you already heard about Ms. Hathaway's, her award. Well, the same organization, our kids are actually researching African Americans and doing videos that are then, if you're on Facebook or Instagram, if you go to Share the Magic, their account, you can see our kids doing videos about different African Americans and our contributions, which is awesome. And then high school, they're going to have basically hallways postings, and everywhere is doing like daily announcements. So just wanted to share a little bit about what we're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So next, Career and Technical Education Month, Ms. Jamie Hutchinson.
Yep. Hello. Good evening, Chairman, school board members, Superintendent Nichols, and ladies and gentlemen of the audience, both here and online. My name is Jamie Hutchinson, and I am the Supervisor of Secondary Curriculum and Instruction, and it is my privilege to be here today to celebrate our career and technical education staff members, both at the middle and high school, for CTE Month. You can go ahead. In general, CTE strives to provide students with employable skills to help them in their next steps of life, be that in the workforce, post-secondary education, or enlistment. Here at New Kent, the staff at the middle and high school aim to give students experiences that teach them problem solving and critical thinking, in addition to a variety of specialty areas. We are incredibly fortunate in New Kent to offer courses to students from a wide variety of specialties listed here. I'd like to call your attention to a few areas in particular. Technology is an area that has a programmatic pathway from both middle and high school. Horticulture, too, has this options for students thanks to the addition of Alyssa Bangett, who is new at the middle school this year. John Achenbach, who wishes that he were here this evening, is the CTE department chair and, as Dr. Nichols mentioned earlier, the current reigning Region 1 Teacher of the Year, recognized as being the best of the best in the Central Virginia area. I believe that he was the, if not one of the first teachers in the state that Superintendent Kuhn spoke to when she first took her position, and he is a continuous advocate for CTE. I'm going to name drop a few people who are in the audience, so if I mention your name, feel free to either stand or to put your hand up just for recognition. Amy Walters is new to us in New Kent and came in with a laser focus to add DECA, which is a student organization that's able to be embedded into marketing programs for our high school students. She is here tonight and has two students with her, Alexis and Grattan, who will take the podium in just a moment to share what CTE involvement has brought to them. Chief Zach McDonald is leading a brand new program to the high school this year, Navy National Defense Cadet Corps, called NNDC. It's a precursor to NJROTC. Chief McDonald has been building this program from the ground up here, and to be honest with you guys, with an enthusiasm that is truly admirable. He wishes that he could be here tonight as well, but as Dr. Nichols had alluded to, he had something come up. However, Ms. Cedarholm, who is here, is serving as a liaison for this program at the middle school to help drum up interest for students. Ms. Cedarholm herself is actually retired military. She was a chief petty officer herself. And Cadet Carrie, who said the pledge earlier tonight, is here. She'll speak very briefly, too, on the impact of this in her life. So students, without further ado, Cadet Carrie, Alexis, Grattan, if you guys are available, just to come up. I don't think you guys need the stool either.
Hi, my name is Alexis, and I'm DECA president.
Good evening. I'm Grant Austin. I am the VP of Marketing at DECA, Vice President of Marketing.
DECA is a leadership program we are so excited to have here in New Kent. It teaches kids leadership now and to bring into their future in whatever they pursue.
So this is our first year, our inaugural DECA chapter. So the requirement to get this started and go to districts was 10 members. We actually doubled that and got to 21 members, making us a platinum chapter.
We did our first competition at the state fair only a few weeks after starting school, and being our first chapter, we thought it was going to be a disaster, but it actually turned out pretty fantastic.
We did have several winners. So for the personal financial literacy event, our student Christian Elam placed third, and Tabitha Gutierrez placed second. For food marketing, Isabel Ranchert placed third. For quick service and restaurant management, Shelby Carmen placed third, and then I placed third for marketing and communications.
Our next event is coming up in March, right?
Yes, yeah. March 1st to 3rd.
March 1st to 3rd. That will be our state competition, and there's going to be a new entrepreneurial pitch, which I'll be doing my business at the competition.
We've also worked closely with New Kent's Los Ortilmo program. We've been partnering with them to do the New Kent Christmas Mother, which is basically people can donate new unwrapped toys like teen gifts and stuff. And it's kind of like a Secret Santa thing. And it goes to kids and teens from families who cannot afford presents. And we will be partnering with them for the rest of the year with certain projects.
I started a giving tree at New Kent High School with Miss Kelly. It is for kids who need school supplies, food items, clothing, or personal hygiene products they can access in secret with the QR code at the bottom of the flyer. Get them through Miss Kelly or through their teacher in secret bags. You can also donate with this QR code as well. Scan it, and then you can give it to somebody who needs it, if you need it, or you can donate with all three.
A big part of DECA is marketing, so we've been going the extra mile to make sure that we get our name out there. And because of that, I've been advertising us on Trojan TV. So I've been the host of New Kent's morning announcements program, Trojan TV, since late 2022. And as of recently, we've been heavily collaborating with DECA to get their events out there and their programs and their announcements.
We have a lot of new activities coming up, like our fundraiser on February 7th with Kilted Creamery. We just finished another fundraiser just a couple of weeks ago with Pizza Hut. Y'all probably saw the video. We also did another one with chocolate bars, and we just finished all those up, so hopefully those will come in soon. Those are all going towards the state for paying for our state trip. We are also doing we've been doing the community service with the Giving Tree and the Christmas Mother, and we just finished mock interviews with Miss Spiak, and we had guest speakers from VCU come in to tell us about states and also to work with us on some marketing information. We have a team building DECA scavenger hunt coming up, not this Wednesday, but next Wednesday during IE. And then another one of our winners for the school decorating pumpkin things for DECA. We got a national winner, which was Aiden Samuel. He got the funniest pumpkin with a very big nose.
Thank you all.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Cadet Carey. I'm a senior at New Kent High School, and I have the honor of representing the high school's Cadet Corps program tonight as the Corps' Cadet Commanding Officer. Our Cadet Corps program is a Naval National Defense Cadet Corps, or NNDCC program. For those that are more familiar with NJRTC programs, our NNDCC program functions almost identically to an NJRTC program. The only difference between the two is that in order to be considered an NJRTC unit, you have to have a minimum of 100 cadets. Currently, our program is at about 30 cadets, which is why we cannot be distinguished as a proper NJRTC unit yet. NJRTC units also receive all of their funding from the government, and NNDCC units do not. We rely on fundraising and donations to achieve what a typical NJRTC unit achieves. As you can well imagine, our main goal is currently to achieve the distinction of an NJRTC unit. When Chief McDonald asked me to give a brief speech about our Cadet Corps to the school board, I could not have been more excited and overwhelmed. In our short period of existence, we have done quite a bit as a Cadet Corps, so I decided to divide our accomplishments into 3 different categories: things that we have successfully accomplished and completed, things that we are currently in the process of working on, and things that we would like to do or have by the end of this school year. Starting off with things that we have accomplished and completed. As a unit, we have established an effective cadet chain of command composed entirely of high school juniors and seniors who all have an interest in future leadership positions in the military. We have also established a unit color guard, and our color guard has performed at and supported approximately 11 events both at the high school and in the community, including but not limited to sporting events, Veterans Day celebrations, local churches, and school board meetings. We have also been working to increase our networking with other local NJRTC units, most of which have offered us training and/or donations. As a matter of fact, Tab High School is coming over to NKHS this Thursday to train some of our cadets in drill and color guard. And just a week ago, our Cadet Corps took a field trip to Patrick Henry High School where the cadets were trained in drill, rifles, uniform regulations, inspection etiquette, and the Raider Squad. And my dress blue uniform came from Patrick Henry. Some things that we are currently working on include establishing a drill team so that we can enter drill competitions, establishing an orienteering team for the same reason. We have had a lot of cadet enthusiasm, participation, and interest in our orienteering team, and now we are looking towards fundraising so that we can participate in an orienteering competition. We are currently training more color guard members since 3 out of our 5 current color guard members are graduating seniors this year, and we would like to have a larger color guard so that we can get more cadets involved for next year and beyond. We are also currently working on providing lots of community service opportunities to our cadets. Just this past weekend, our NNDCC unit sponsored the local Special Olympics tournament, and we have held numerous environmental trash cleanups on the NKHS campus as well. Probably my most favorite topics to talk about are all the things that our Corps is looking forward to doing by the end of the school year. We would definitely love to set up a Raiders Squad and Raiders course. There are some cadets in our Corps that are going to be working on this as their Scouts project. However, we still need to fundraise for the materials needed to construct the course, as well as to purchase the ropes and clips needed for the actual cadets. Another thing that we are hoping to do is host an NROTC Scholarship Boot Camp. As a recipient myself of the NROTC 4-year National Scholarship, I felt like I wasn't fully prepared to apply and submit my application, and I only found out about this scholarship from speaking to my naval officer recruiter. This scholarship boot camp will be put on by myself and Navy Chief Stephanie Williams, my scholarship liaison, and our goal is to spread awareness and assistance to those in our Cadet Corps and those in the high school who are interested in the scholarship, and to those who are qualified to win it just don't know how to get started. We are still in the beginning stages of this idea. However, we plan to host the scholarship boot camp during mid-May or early June. To wrap up my presentation, I would like to share with you some of the goals that my staff, cadet officers, and I have set up for the next school year. For 2024 to 2025, we have set a goal of 80% cadet retention. This goal is based upon our current number of cadets, excluding graduating seniors, who I'm sure would love to remain in the program if they could. We would also like to see a 70% increase in cadet numbers for this upcoming school year. To accomplish this goal, we are visiting the middle school during lunchtime to do some recruiting, as well as recruiting current freshmen, sophomores, and juniors from within the high school. We would also like to have approximately 43% of cadets promoted to higher leadership positions, such as staff officers and squad leaders. These numbers may seem ambitious, however, my staff and I wanted to set the bar high as well as get the ball rolling towards becoming an official NJRTC unit. One last thing that we've accomplished as a unit. We have decided to set our date for our pass and review and official establishment of our NNDCC unit. It's going to be May 17th at the high school, and I hope to see you all there while our amazing cadet corps shows everyone what we've been working so hard on all year. Thank you so much for your time. It's been an honor to speak in front of you tonight.
Students, thank you guys so much for coming out and representing the high school so well tonight and the CTE department so well tonight. I hope for everyone that your takeaway from that is that it's bigger than just what's taught in the classroom to the kids, but I heard planning, I heard excitement, I heard goals and ideas that were all student-driven, and that is really and truly what CTE is about. The last slide here just sort of shows you where CTE is looking to go in the future. So next year, I hope that I'm here with students who are representing Teachers for Tomorrow, which is a course that allows high school students to have the opportunity to learn about what it would be like to have a career in education, if that's something that they're interested in. Also, our marketing and business team is looking to bring on entrepreneurship to help teach students how to have their independent dreams become reality. So if you would, please just join me in celebrating all of the CTE teachers who are here right now in CTE month this month for all of the hard work that they do all year long. Thank you.
And she's been a great help to all of us on the board. We couldn't have made this transition as a totally new board with her. She follows up with things, makes sure we do things, and in fact, anyhow, we really do appreciate her, and thank you very much for your service.
Joanna has the distinct responsibility to be in charge of the board and me, so that is.
Oh, the next item. Yeah, school board appreciation.
So it is School Board Appreciation Month, and while this board has been on the job just a little over a month, from the time they were elected to where we are now, they have been all in on everything we've done. We put them through bus tours, orientations. Joanna's got them straight on all the things they need to do. Every challenge we've thrown at them, they have happily taken it on. So we got you this, if I we, Joanna, got you this beautiful flower as we grow together. You each have one, but I know Ms. Coleman does not want me to clutter up the diet, so I'll put them over here.
I would just scatter them.
Put them in front of me. But you've probably seen our board members at a number of events, whether it's a sporting event or an activity or the most recent play. It's just really been a great start, and they're all in on the work it's only been a month, we definitely appreciate your service and work.
Thank you.
So I would just like to say once again, thank you to all the, and congratulations to all the people that we've recognized tonight. And let's hear one more round of applause. We're going to take a short 5-minute recess before we reconvene for the business meeting. If you have not yet signed up to speak and wish to, the sign-up sheet is still available. Thank you all very much.
How are you doing, sir? I'm Jay Bowen. Hey, Jay. Nice to meet you all. And congratulations. I've heard so much good about you. I hope you have. Oh, well, good. And you're like in your second or third meeting here, right? You enjoying it?
I've served in
My son's going there.
Yeah, I was a student.
Good to see you, sir. Nice to meet you. Did you get some flowers? Did you get some flowers? See, I'm the kind of guy.
We're going to reconvene shortly, folks, so let's try to get to the end of the recess. Hello, is that better? Okay. Folks, let's reconvene now for the business piece of the meeting. I've been forgetting. We are now reconvening. Our first order of business is the consent agenda. By now, you have the opportunity to review the items listed on the consent agenda, including minutes from the previous meeting, monthly bills, payroll, and the superintendent's recommendations regarding personnel and student matters. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
I second.
I have a second and motion and a second. All, Joanna, could you please? Mr. Reimer? Yes. Ms. Davis, could you please call the roll? Mr. Reimer, aye.
Mr. Bott?
Aye.
Mr. Pagano?
Aye.
And Ms. Cunha?
Aye.
Vote is carried. Let's move on to the next item on the agenda, new business. The first item of new business is the transfer of PA equipment. Mr. Hockman.
I find it ironic Mr. Hockman is a PA request while he's working on the microphone. I just wanted to point that out for the audience.
We'll increase that funding just a bit. I'm out here tonight to ask for a CIP request in the amount of $6,670. That money would be utilized to address some of our needs with sound. Currently at our men's baseball field, that does not work. We do not have sound, so we're not able to hold events out there. Last year, we had some issues with that, and we want to replace that system so that we can announce the games, but also we have a senior night out there, and we'd like to make sure we have adequate sound. Also, in two of our gyms, the high school gym and the middle school gym, we are upgrading the sound system in there to make sure that when we hold events, we have a better sound for all of our people that are there watching, just a better overall experience. That money would be utilized to purchase all of the equipment needed for those things. Our goal is moving forward that our operations team will be able to do the install. Down the road, if we do have issues, we would have to address that, but we're planning on in-house to handle all the install for that equipment.
Any questions?
Yeah, I take it that you looked at companies to do install and considered that, just from the standpoint of having gone through this before myself, a valuable lesson that those who work with it and within that parameter tend to do a better job, and things don't show up later that someone who is a general installer may run into.
Certainly, and we had a group come out, actually, we tried to fix it ourselves. We had a group come out to support us with that, and they recommended we start in that direction. So we had some folks out to help us. We will be using our technology team to really help us try to get some of this done, but we did have some support to come in and try to get a fix, and for those things, they said we should be okay moving forward.
So does that mean they're going to offer support as well if you need them?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Just for further clarification, any support we receive from them, we should be able to handle out of the operating budget. This PA was not a known expense, so we would do the CIP transfer from our CIP set-aside fund. So if we do run into that issue, we should be able to navigate that piece. But you're right, you need an expert on site.
Yes, do it right the first time. And that may have been what happened to the PA, the other one, as in addition to growing old.
Yeah.
But it always helps.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you.
Next, we have textbook transfer and appropriation request.
Chairman Reimer, School Board Dr. Nichols, tonight we come to you with a textbook fund transfer and appropriation request. We budget for a match of our textbook state funds every year in our general fund budget. And during this time of year, typically, we will come to you with a transfer request to transfer that into our textbook fund. We are allowed to carry a balance in that fund year to year. And we're asking for a transfer of $196,070.
Any questions? Just to make clear, this is, I'm sorry, moving from the contingency to the textbook. Thank you.
Yeah, so this basically transfers as an expense. So we will report this as a textbook expenditure to the state. However, these funds get transferred in, and then Mr. Miller will use these funds out of our textbook fund for purchases during the year.
You have a question. Is this going to be used for the new K-5, part of the K-5 reading program, or is that a separate fund?
Yes, so any purchase for the Virginia Literacy Act, the presentation second read you'll see in a few moments, we have some funding from All In related to it, but the textbook fund would be where we would have the balance come from. So yes.
And I believe it's about half. Yes, ma'am.
So if those funds are not used, in other words, with the new textbook, we were looking at a 3-year plan that has one figure. And if we don't go that way, then those funds
Do carry forward.
Do carry?
year. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Thank
So we
you.
have had an actual a fairly large balance over the years, Mr. Vaught, and last year we started depleting those funds a little bit and really focusing on making a plan to spend down those funds a little bit. I think now we're starting to build them back up again. Really how that helps us is in the past, when you have a textbook adoption, that's a very expensive request, and so typically you can kind of hold those funds in reserve for a few years, make that adoption, and then kind of rinse and repeat. It has changed a little bit with the software purchases. You know, those are more frequent, so it's kind of a balance between the two.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Next up is our update to our budget process. And I'd like just to give kind of a brief generic overview of kind of where we are. As I have described, it's kind of think of a big target, and each time we come to you, we're going to zero in a little bit on what our actual plan is. Tonight, I just want to go over some key points. We have held a budget forum in each of our schools in the fall. Dr. Nichols and I sat in each of our schools and heard requests from staff members, not only for next year's budget, but oftentimes it's something that we're able to do in the current year, which is very helpful for all of us. We also have met with division leaders, principals, staff advisory meetings to discuss kind of some of our initiatives and get feedback from those folks as well. We'll also have faculty meetings with the staff just to share a little bit here in the winter of where we're headed. And also we love to receive feedback from this email address here, budget@nkcps.k12.va.us. Briefly, our revenue outlook currently. This will change, but currently in the governor's proposed budget, we're receiving an additional approximately $1.5 million. That is based on a local budgeted ADM, or average daily membership, of 3,500 students. Our composite index is increasing just a little bit for next year. We are anticipating some additional support in the upcoming weeks as we hear from the House and Senate. I do believe that their version, so to speak, will be aligned both to provide more funding for K-12 education. So stay tuned for that. Additionally, we'll be looking over the next couple weeks, really just talking to the county staff and really determining what our requests from them will be for everything that we're kind of looking at now. Our pandemic funding is limited. In FY25, our last big pandemic fund, ESSER 3, will end in September. So you will see a drop off of those funds. some items you will see that we're trying to pick those up in our general fund for next year. Again, as always, we just really try to remain flexible. Just a friendly reminder of our FY22 per pupil amount. That is one of the lower amounts in the state. I like to say there's two sides to that. I do think we're very efficient in the work that we do. Just want to give a brief overview of some of the salary items and dollar amounts, just so you have that in your general knowledge of what these things may cost as you hear about what we're recommending. We did have a 2% mid-year salary increase in the current year. This was in January, and this is a cost of $605,826. We'd have to fully fund that in next year's budget. FY24 amendments. In the current year, we did add 2 teaching positions and 1 paraprofessional, which we also would request to fund next year. You might have heard in the news that the governor proposed a 1% budget for staff. I just want to note that that is not something most likely that you'll be hearing as a request from us. We do want to try to do a higher increase and make it part of your VRS credible compensation as part of your salary. That $272,360, I will just say the state provides $137,000 of that expense. So that's just a general idea of kind of percentages of what the state provides versus what we have to cover locally. A 1% salary increase. So the difference between the two is the bonus would only have a FICA in it. The actual salary increase would have to include VRS, group life, health insurance credit. So the total cost is $314,967. So just for reference, a 3% increase would be close to $1 million. We do see some savings with VRS, and we do see actually a little bit of savings in healthcare, but we also see an increase in rates for next year. We are going to try to balance that out and hopefully not pass much of an increase on to our employees. But right now we're looking at about $240,000. We do have a pre-renewal meeting this week and should have some more information for you the next time we meet. For recruitment and retention purposes, other things that are under review are minimum wage adjustments. Right now we're currently sitting at about $13 an hour. We do have just very few jobs that would need to be increased to $13.50. Market rate adjustments for transportation, specifically for our mechanics, looking at differentiation for diesel mechanics. Also, we would like to look at our paraprofessional scales. There's been a lot of discussion about paraprofessionals and special education paraprofessionals and differentiating a little bit in that scale as well, so we'll be reviewing that. And then stipends. Anytime that we do increase our teacher scale, our coaching stipends and one-time type stipends do increase as well. School-based subs, this year we have 2, I believe, in every school. One of those is funded through general fund, and one is, or we pay for them and hire them, and the other one is paid through ESS. We are looking at next year having at least 2 in-house that we hire. They're our employees. Potentially a third in some schools, depending on funding, but the added value of those people being in our schools every day, they know our staff, they know our students, our processes is invaluable. And then lastly, looking at initiatives implemented through our pandemic grant funding, Ms. Anderson has done a great job with retention, residency, and student teaching plans that we'd like to continue in the general fund.
Any questions?
Actually, I have a couple.
Okay.
If we could go back to salary and benefit adjustments. So we're not looking, necessarily at the potential 1% bonus, but making that a salary increase rather than, because the bonus would just be a one-time bump.
Sure.
For the lack of a
Yes, sir. And what happens with that, Mr. Vaught, the state will provide us with that. It's a line item. It's called compensation supplement. If we provide the 1% bonus Or if we provide that in a salary increase for staff, we will receive that funding.
That
It
answers
just will cost us a little bit more
Okay.
to do it as a salary increase instead of a bonus.
Yeah.
So that's something that we'll look at what that cost is, and we would have to request that funding locally.
Okay,
Does
so
that
it could
help?
be used either way.
It could be.
Yeah, it's not designated to just a one-time.
Correct.
flash in the pan.
Oftentimes, the state will say, kind of, here's what we're funding, this is what we want you to do, and then they'll allow you to kind of make an internal decision of how you want to process it, and they'll say, sometimes they'll say, if we do it as a salary increase, you are not allowed to do a bonus, you would not receive the funding. But usually when it's the other way around, we would be able to claim that.
How nice of them.
So kind.
So if we turn a bonus into a salary increase, we run the risk of having to self-fund in following years, right?
Correct.
Thank you.
And one other thing on recruitment and retention, and correct me if I'm wrong, a paraprofessional is not allowed to make lesson plans. Is that correct? They're not certified, so they're...
Yes, sir.
So, I would recommend also that maybe we take a look at if there's a scale adjustment for a paraprofessional, that may be an increase on the teacher that they're working with. Does that make sense, or am I way off the trail here? So we may want to consider, because that would be additional work for the teacher to take care of the lesson plan there as well.
Well, it wouldn't change any of the operations that we have right now. So
Okay.
it would stay, we just, in every building, in every conversation Haney and I had, we need to do more for paraprofessionals. The work that they do, we need to compensate them more. And we've worked on that the past 3 years specifically. So it wouldn't change any of the interaction between teacher and staff.
Okay.
It would just raise the level of the paraprofessional.
Okay.
And
That's
may I
fine.
speak
makes
to that a
sense.
little bit? I know that based upon my family experience, paraprofessionals do participate in the lesson plan. They are not responsible for it.
Right. Thank you. Thank you.
And I would just add on the paraprofessional piece, we couldn't operate as a school division without our paraprofessionals. Just what they do is they fill gaps and do a ton for us, and they're just an integral part of the work we do. So
Yeah, and I'm all for it.
Yes, sir.
And I just wanted to make sure that we,
yep. Same page.
yeah.
And I know there was a question, and we discussed our teacher salary scale, bachelor's versus master's, and I did get some information pulled. Ms. Tammy helped me with that, and we are, it's a little tricky because you don't really know what everybody did with the January increase. So many of them actually already had that built in, but the salary scales that we were able to pull offline, we're sitting at about number 7 out of 10 regionally, which is actually a little bit better than what we've been in the past. I will say the last 4 divisions are very, very close in what they're offering. But I will say that we do a much better job percentage-wise with our master's teachers. We pay 7% higher for teachers with masters. So I don't know if that helps someone in making that decision if they're coming here. That is the group that we're trying to recruit, and that is the scale that we've really pushed in on over the past few years. And I ran it today. We have about 53% of our teachers with their master's degrees. Regional programs, actually, we're not seeing a lot of increases in those for next year. We do have a meeting with Bridging Communities Regional Career and Technical Center on Thursday, and we'll get a little information with regards to their increase. Right now, we're just looking at a $3,600 total increase for Code RBA. That's for 8 slots. Looking operationally, really, the cost of goods are increasing. We have Quentin in the mix. That's really a big part of what increases we'll be bringing to you for maintenance and custodial services, and also transportation. Big item that we will be discussing is our one-to-one initiative. Our Chromebook lease is in the 3rd year. We had a one-to-one initiative for grades 6 through 12 for many years, and during the pandemic, we really made shifts, a way to shift those Chromebooks down into our younger grades, and now we're needing to build that into our replacement scale. So there will be funding that we will be coming, and it will be quite a bit of cost to it, but I think it will be worth the cost in knowing that we have replacement cycles not only for our student devices, but also staff laptops and things of that nature as well.
I do have a question there also.
I do as well.
Sure. Go ahead.
I was just curious how much Chromebook use is done at home. I know that I know at the elementary school they don't have homework. Middle school, they usually don't have homework. So how much do you think is the Chromebook being utilized at home? And can we look at, I don't know, kind of scaling back, as far as saving?
So the elementary piece, it's not in our practice for them to even take the Chromebooks home for a number of reasons. So nothing like having a good book in your hand at home and in school. And they do a fair amount of that as well. So at the middle school and high school, it's more of a regular thing to help them with to work with the homework. We're also mindful of lack of connectivity in the county still. It's getting better, but we're very aware of not assigning homework that requires you to connect. That's middle and high school. So whether they download the assignments or what they do, it's more of a middle but primarily high school piece. So yeah, the elementary Chromebook could stay in a cart in school and used when we need the technology. So testing does remain a big driver of our technology needs. So all SOL testing is done online with Chromebooks, or devices.
Does that lack of connectivity and reliance on it affect the way students can get to their assignments?
We offset that at middle and high school. So if you do have an assignment, it shouldn't be dependent on internet at home. So teachers are very skilled at doing those pieces, whether it's a download before or an attachment or a document that is housed there. So, Mr. Miller, if I am off base on any of these answers, please jump in. Thank you.
Yeah, I just had one more question as far as the assignments, since we're talking about Chromebooks. Are all assignments posted on Schoology or in a set location where students and parents can access those assignments?
That is the protocol. Now, if I was to sit up here and say it happens every time, every teacher, I don't know that I can say that about almost anything we do. But that is kind of what is expected. We did hear a comment at the last board meeting about working to clean that up and making those connections. So we have held a meeting post that meeting to talk about what are the ways we can make sure things are in a singular place and kind of connect some of those dots with kids using multiple platforms. So work in progress. We hope to roll out a more seamless integration in next school year, but we'll keep you posted.
Yeah, can we have a report sometime, a regular report on that sometime down the line? We'd like very much to know how that goes.
Yes, sir. Yep, absolutely.
I have a question. I've been very polite. As far as staff and their laptops, it's my understanding that, for instance, of course, we never know when we're going to get sick or something's going to happen. And if that teacher is not able to come into the school, she has her laptop with her, and there's a substitute. Do we have availability or a system built in place so that whatever she had, whatever she or he was going to present that day, that the sub will not miss a beat and be able to access that?
Yes, sir. So our teachers do a fantastic job of putting together emergency plans in that instance. We also offer Chromebooks for our subs so that they're able to access as well.
Excellent.
Yeah. So that's our protocol. We're looking, if you're not to nuances, but if you're a long-term sub and you're going to be there for a while, we have a different setup for you. But that daily emergency when you don't know you're not going to be there, that's the protocol that we have set up. And that's also where a school-based sub comes in incredibly handy because they're kind of like on staff and they already know everything to do. So, but yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lastly here, just safety and security. We have, Mr. Hockman's done a great job of really building teams that come together, and we're attending conferences, and so we're just building in a little bit of extra funding for travel and training and things of the sort. Nothing too major there, but lots of work's been done in that area.
And board members, nothing too glamorous either. It's Hampton in the summer. We take a team to the Virginia State training, but it's where we train with the best of the best in school safety. So.
Just wanted to give a couple highlights of our position request. There will be much more than this, but just wanted to highlight a few items that we're really digging into. Additional resource teachers at each of our elementary school, an elementary school counselor. This will help us to meet our current SOQ requirement, and there's a potential that that will change. So we're just looking to try to get ahead of that a little bit. Teachers for growth, meaning that we're growing and we're expanding, and we want to be sure that we're keeping our teacher ratios, student to teacher ratio, lower than our regional friends as a recruitment tool for Ms. Anderson. Exceptional education and student services support. Dr. Nichols and I did meet with our special education team today, and we reviewed all of our positions, not only just to look at what the needs were moving forward, but how can we rethink some of the placements that we have currently for savings. So that went very well. I appreciate them. Instructional coaches, we have 2 coming in from ESSER, and also a request at the secondary level for math and reading instructional coach. An assistant principal at the secondary level, specifically at the high school, which would provide 1 for each grade level, 1 administrator. A secondary ESL teacher. We have 30 students and growing. We need some additional support across the district. School-based substitutes, we've spoken regarding this evening, and then various stipends. Really, again, these are tied to our teacher scale. These are growth and nuances with sports, and also with our Corps Cadet program at the high school.
And board members, just to pull out one, and we have a retreat in late February where we'll dive in even deeper into these pieces, as Haney mentioned. But some interesting conversation. You saw the opportunities for high school kids tonight. We want to sort of chart that pathway in elementary. So the request for additional resource teachers is twofold. One, we have growing numbers of grade levels where we have 5 and 6 in a grade level. So sending them to art, music, library, and PE at the same time so that teachers can plan gets cumbersome. So it'll allow us better scheduling in that aspect. But it also opens up an opportunity to do something besides the 4 core that most everybody does, and we can venture into STEM more in a dedicated block. I would love for us to explore sort of the dual language route and introduce students to a second language in elementary school. And we're starting to begin to talk about a structure where we could introduce kids to multiple things across a year, every year, and really build that. So 3 teachers allows you great flexibility. And I would put our elementary principals up against anybody to make that happen. It's just a unique opportunity and a way to try to get ahead and think ahead. So.
Next steps, we are, like I said, anticipating additional information from the state, and we'll be sure to keep you posted on what that might look like, and we'll continue to prioritize our requests, our positions, and other items within the budget based on what those figures are. We will have a school board retreat scheduled for February 29th, where we will present you a lot of those updates and where we are in the planning, and then we'll formally present an additional, any additional updates at our March 4th meeting. Mr. Hathaway will present his proposed budget on March 11th, which will include our request and formalize the amount that we would be receiving from the county. We will then have a retreat with the Board of Supervisors on March 15th, and we will hold a public hearing on our recommendations for people to comment, and then also approve and finalize through both an adoption through the Board of Supervisors and then followed by this board.
Could we have a retreat with Mr. Hathaway before he presents his proposed budget?
Absolutely.
No, we're fine with that.
We definitely appreciate the partnership of the county. Dr. Nichols and I are in constant communication with Mr. Hathaway and Becca Guthrie, the finance director, and we just really appreciate their partnership. I'm happy
Any
to
more
answer
questions?
Other questions?
Thank you.
No, I'd just like to thank you so much for you guys. for digging into that and making this work. That's a lot of laborious research and digging into. And thank you so much. You're so appreciated.
Thank you. You're welcome.
I'd like to thank Hanny and her team too, because all the hours of putting this together and a moving target. But I also want to thank the board for digging in and doing the hard work and coming together to kind of go through this with us, multiple times along the way. So thank you guys as well.
Okay, next to continuing business. First up will be preschool curriculum adoption, second read.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board, and Dr. Nichols. We are here to go through the questions that were asked previously. So, the threes curriculum and the pre-K curriculum were both released at separate times. Most recently, the threes was released in 2016, and then the pre-K was released in 2020. The kits are comprehensive. However, when new updates are released, we have to purchase the entire kit. However, on the next slide, if we need to replace parts of the kit, we have that option as well. So parts of the kit can be replaced from anywhere up to a couple of dollars to the teacher resource guide would be about $100. But if we need to replace some of the cards, we have the option to print those off for us at no cost.
When they do a new kit, are the old kits supported for any length of time?
Supported how?
Here we have the ability to replace pieces of the kit.
Yes.
When they come out with a new kit, do they continue to support for any length of time the old kits?
As far as we're aware, yes.
Okay.
They had done so historically.
Yes. So far.
All right, one of the questions that came up last meeting was the assessments that are included. So we gave you a variety of different assessments that are included naturally. This would be in addition to what they do already as far as state and district assessments. There are developmental screenings. There are opportunities to take photos of certain pieces of work to save in sort of a portfolio. There are ongoing assessments, sort of what you're watching and you're just marking through as you go through a unit. And then observations. There are links to all of these and paper copies within the kits. So teachers have both options of having it electronically and on paper. When you see and you can go to the next one, within the student notebooks or within the teacher manuals, there are these symbols. So each symbol alerts the teacher of what kind of assessment they should be doing. So if they see the pencil, it's a reminder for them to jot a note down. Obviously the camera's for the photograph, the folder is for the work sample for the portfolio, and then the check it directly ties to the developmental checklist. So it's right there for them, which is super helpful that they don't miss those things. We wanted to provide you one cost update. Since we last met with you guys, we are going to be taking our 6 pre-K classes and spreading them between all 3 of our elementary schools. So right now we don't have pre-K at Watkins. We have 3 schools at Quinton, or 3 classes at Quinton and 3 classes at New Kent Elementary. We're going to shift that so that there's 2, 2, and 2, so that students can attend their zoned schools. And really start to build their foundation in the school they'll attend for their elementary career. So with doing that, we want to make sure that Watkins has the opportunity to have the threes kit that we talked about, having 1 in each building to provide differentiation. So this is an updated quote to include that cost. We wanted to make sure we were transparent since we had that update. It's about a $2,700 difference since the last time we met, but we wanted you guys to have that information. So next steps, pending adoption tonight, we would submit the purchase order so we can go ahead and get it in our teachers' hands this year so they can begin to look through and we can customize what sort of professional development they need. March 11th, the at-home learning day, we would have Frog Street on site to do professional development. And again, they would follow up with our teachers again in August. But ongoing, starting as soon as we get it in their hands throughout the years, we will continue to monitor implementation through walkthroughs, classroom observations, and assessment data. Any questions?
The assessments look great. How are your team planning? Are you planning on aggregating any of that information or storing it long term?
Yes, so within Frog Street, there is digital ways for us to do that. So we can look at division-wide data. They can also look at school-wide data from the administrator perspective. But we would be able to save that so we can monitor our students, especially as they go into K1 and 2.
So you could keep track of how many students achieve certain developmental goals.
Yes.
And Mr. Reimer, one thing that we're very interested in doing is potentially expanding pre-K. This would give us an opportunity to go, here's a kindergarten student who had early childhood with us versus a kindergarten student who didn't, and be able to look at that data the same sort of way. Are there patterns and trends? So when we come to you with a recommendation to expand, that we can say, we want to expand, look at kids who are with us.
So does Frog Street have a program for kindergarten as well?
No, Frog Street said that they were just pre-K, that's their specialty. And also just to go along with that thought, obviously with our K-5 adoption, it has to be from the approved list, and Frog Street's not.
But Mr. Reimer, the team has been awesome about rethinking pre-K. By having pre-K at all 3 schools, you're able to build that kindergarten pre-K collaboration because those students are going to be theirs the following year versus I'm at Quinton, but I'll end up at George Watkins or so forth.
That was exactly where I was going. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, any other questions?
No question, but I want to thank you for taking the time for us to go and visit and go through the curriculum. That was educational, no pun intended. It was enlightening, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
You might as well say.
Dr. Nichols?
Yes, sir.
I do have a question,
Okay.
and perhaps you can repeat it on the record for me. I don't know how good I'm coming through here. What recommendations do the teachers have from the 1, 3, 5, or 7-year plan? Like what are their thoughts on what is going to be best and yield the best data to see how this program is actually working for our students?
Yes, sir. We're going to circle back that in just a second. I think Ms. Laura's going to start talking about some of the literacy piece, and we'll jump into that. So I'll make sure we address that question. And you're coming in beautifully clear, so you're good.
All right. Thank you.
So we'll circle back to it in just a minute.
All right. Sean, the next one. All right, so good evening again, Chairman, members of the board, and Dr. Nichols. I am here for the second read of the K-5 literacy curriculum adoption. Maybe.
We're getting there.
So one of the questions that came up during our last meeting was the efficacy measures. So I brought 3 back for you guys, and they are linked so you guys have access, but I'll go through them briefly. The first one was the Ed Reports. It was published in 2020, there it is, and it got what Ed Reports calls the all green rating. It was highly rated K through 6 program. It met all the criteria at every grade level within all 3 gateways. So that's text quality and alignment to standards, building knowledge with text, vocabulary, and task usability rating, all met, which is great. HMH also did a implementation study from 2019 to 2020. One of the best points that I wanted to highlight was it confirmed that teachers had the appropriate curriculum resources, materials, and environment to build reading success. So I know that the chart is very small there, but what it essentially shows is that student results in grades 3 and 5 from the beginning of the year to mid-year demonstrate a practically significant event. And that's what we like to see is the data growing. And then lastly, this goes without saying, but the VDOE in June and then in December of 2023 approved HMH into reading as one of the VLA aligned programs. For K through 5, there were 0 areas that did not meet expectations, which is huge, that it met a very strenuous report. There was about 30 to 40 areas that each program had to meet. All right, so next is the 1, 3, 5, or 7-year quote. I came back to you today with that information. This is the total cost to include professional development, student materials, digital licenses for the selected years, and all teaching materials. I did want to note from the last time I was before you, it includes a $400 professional development that is specifically designed for our specialists, coaches, and administrators, so that we ensure that they have the tools that they need to monitor a successful implementation. So I wanted to include that note. And on the next slide, you'll see the cost per student per year. So on the first part of the chart, you will see how much it's going to cost per student per year for 1 year, and 3, 5, and 7. I think that this is important to note because there is such a vast difference. So for example, at 1 year, we're going to see somewhere in the range of $101+ but the moment we go to 3 years, you see more of a 31 to 51. So there is a vast difference. Sorry, it's so small.
Yeah, try to zoom in on that.
Do you want to read
That's
some of the
okay.
numbers?
No worries. Could you just read if you would, Ms. Lawler, across the per student at 1 year, per student at 3 year, per student at 5?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so for 1 year per student, and we'll start with kindergarten just because the primary grades are more expensive. It costs $138.75 for 1 year per student. If you go to 3 years, the cost again for kindergarten is $51.73. If you go to 5 years, you see that it's $35.69. And then 7 years is $30.24. And those costs go down as you look at 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so there are a couple of things that I wanted to note that also came up at Frog Street. I wanted to make sure you had those answers here. There is not a rate lock, so the initial investment ensures the price. For our instructional purposes, it's important to note that the 3, 5, and 7-year plan, those resources, the student consumables, will ship at an agreed upon date each year. So we won't have to figure out where to store all of those resources for years to come. And the cost can be broken into a multi-year plan. So HMH will work with our finance department to work on that proposal and what that would look like if needed. So same thing that we talked about with Frog Street, what happens if HMH updates? So exciting to note that if there's an electronic update, it's pushed out to users. So for example, this year, HMH added something called structured literacy in the primary grades, really focusing on the foundational skills. That was pushed to all divisions that are currently under contract with HMH. Print materials would have to be purchased separately if they are chosen to be used. And HMH is already working to publish new correlation documents that align HMH with the proposed new literacy standards from the state. So we will have that in our hands soon.
So if we choose print, how much more cost would that mean to us over the, say, a 3-year period?
So if
they update during the period, is that what you're asking, Mr. Wood?
So it would be a new contract.
It would be a new contract.
Yes. Yes. So it was exciting for our teachers to note that the HMH is already working at looking at our new standards and making sure that we have what we need to be successful. So our next steps are pending the adoption today. we would go ahead and submit the purchase order. With that, we would be able to schedule a March 11th PD for at-home learning day for our teachers. We would also be able to go ahead and get materials in our teachers' hands to begin preparing for next year's full implementation.
So
Ms.
are you
Loader, go back to
I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going back to Mr. Pagano's question.
Oh, sorry, right. Mhm.
Just to make sure we close that out. His question was, as far as talking to teachers, is there a recommendation around 1, 3, 5, or 7? I believe that was. Thank you, Ms. Cunha.
Yeah, so as far as 1 year goes, the teachers were against 1 year for obvious reasons, that 1 year is not going to tell us enough about whether it was effective or not. There's going to be trial and error. We're going to have to learn with HMH. We're going to have to ask questions, and a year does not provide us adequate time to become experts. So we need to give ourselves that grace. So teachers were for 3 years. After 3 years, looking at how our data is looking, how it's going with teachers. Are they getting the results that they expect? And then deciding on the next steps.
So your recommendation, therefore, is 3 years. Okay.
Is there, or have there been any conversations with HMH about, are they definitively setting on 1, 3, 5, or 7? Or would they be willing to carve out a 2-year? And my concern is, I'm the kind of, I'll just tell you straight up, when a new model car comes out, I don't buy it for the first 2 years because I want to make certain that it's going to do everything they say it'll do. And I would hate to get 3 years into an investment in a curriculum that we find out in a year and a half doesn't meet up to the standards. And or, here's another thing that concerns me, VDOE, we don't control what they do. And Lord knows we certainly don't know what to expect and what's coming from them. And if they shift and make a change, and we're 3 or 5 years into it, then we have to eat that cost, if that makes sense. And I have tried every way to convince myself that 3 years is the way to go, or 5 years. But being a good steward with the taxpayers' dollars really causes apprehension for me in that area, if that makes sense.
I'll add my opinion here. I don't think 2 years is enough to get a true evaluation of a program. I reviewed the program. I wouldn't expect there to be great changes coming out of VDOE, considering there was this emphasis for science-based, evidence-based reading programs, and they were really pushing it. So, and I know that they evaluated several programs. And I'm very confident that this program will meet the needs of students. I really feel that 3 years is the way to go.
Do you think there is an opportunity to put into the contract a provision that would have them adapt to any changes in VDOE's requirements or standards?
So I think you're asking, would there be an option where if VDOE suddenly shifts gears, if they would suddenly resupply us?
Resupply us or void the contract if they could not?
I would not, I don't think that's likely.
Okay. It's just something.
Yeah, I mean, we could certainly go down that road with
Yeah.
them when we get to contract negotiations with our attorney and see
Yeah.
what is specifically provided, what's not provided, what we would like to have.
Just looking at managing risk.
Yeah.
I will say if they're coming out of the gate and they're on this approved list, it does not benefit them to make a radical change, to Ms. Cunha's point, quickly. I do, once we get past 3 years, begin to worry about updates as well. So I wouldn't advise going to 5 or even 7, even though it is a little bit of a discount. But I mean, we can certainly, we bring that to our attorneys and look at every possible way to provide that support.
Also, Mr. Vaught, you mentioned not wanting to buy a car in the first couple of years. We'll say this program was published in 2020, and the counties that we visited with that are using it, they've been using it for for 5 years. Yeah, they and previous versions and the current version, and are seeing good results out of it.
Mr. Pagano had a question. Mr. Pagano?
Yeah, more as a point of reference and not necessarily a bellwether, but do we know if other surrounding counties are already using Frog Street, and to what degree of success?
HMH? You're talking Frog Street or HMH? Yeah.
We could do both. Yes. When we first started looking at each of the curriculums, we did look at surrounding districts as to what they were using. In HMH, at last check, some divisions are still going through adoptions, was one of the most widely chosen. Even districts had started using it before this process with the VLA started. So it's very comforting to know that we have other divisions we can collaborate with as well.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have one more if you guys can hear me.
Yes, sir.
Couldn't really hear her response too well, but I think I picked up on the important pieces. My recollection from the first read is, when we look at, let's say, the cost of the 3-year plan, $324,000 roughly, I believe we noted that there's already money set aside for part of that, or something from the state to cover part of that cost. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir. We received all-in funding at the amount of...
It's approximately $186,000.
So about $186,000 we received in the all-in grant money to go towards the Virginia Literacy Act. So it's in our all-in plan to use that money towards this purchase. So yes, sir.
Right. So then, Ron, just to address your question, and I don't know that this is the right answer here, but then the difference between that and the cost of the 3-year, let's call it $140,000, and if we can spread that out over 3 years, right, we're not lump summing this balance. If we make an installment upon delivery once a year for 3 years, perhaps that's the way to do it, and along that time frame, save some cost with attrition.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Mr. Pagano. And my greatest concern is VDOE and the fact that we won't, there's no may, we'll have a different administration in 2 years in Richmond. And that tends to make a lot of drastic changes depending on which way it goes. So I'm just trying to consider all possibilities. I mean, we can't forecast the future, but I certainly appreciate what you're looking at and have brought forward. Thank you.
Well, likewise, I concur with your assessment, and there is a little bit of fear or danger in anything in the future that we don't know about.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Let's move on to our citizen comment period. Before we begin, I'd like to thank everybody for coming tonight to speak. Please note that your comments are limited to 3 minutes. And having done this before, I know how hard that is to meet. But please do. Once the timer sounds, please promptly finish your comments and return to seat. We typically don't comment back, especially on what you have presented. But please give us your contact information so that we can follow up if we need to. Thanks again for coming. And first on the list is Jill Lovett.
Good evening. Typically when people come speak, they are up here asking you all to stop doing something or start doing something. And what I want to ask you tonight is to keep doing something. And these keep doing somethings are, I think really important. First of all, I want you to keep highlighting the good work that our teachers are doing. It's really important for all of us to see that we've got brilliant folks teaching our kids. It's very reassuring, so keep doing that. The second thing I want you to keep doing is the senior highlights that have been showing up on Facebook and in different places. They're amazing to see our young people, so please keep doing that. The third thing is for the school board to have, some of the school board are having meetings with their constituents and sharing information either online or in emails or whatever. Please keep doing that. The next thing is the really great work these folks have been doing, digging into finding the best ways to teach our kids. When I come to the school board meetings and they have all this information for us, and they've done the research, and they've gotten the teachers involved, and they've gotten the communities involved, please keep doing that. The process is amazing. The next thing is I want you to keep sharing with the community opportunities to engage in the schools. Personally, for me, sometimes I see stuff like there was a play going on or a sporting event, but I see it after the fact. Please keep telling us, because I'd love for all the community to come and see our kids. And the last thing is, we have this great Bridging Communities program out there that's really working for the kids. I don't know what the rules are around it, but is there more options besides Rappahannock Community College? Can we partner with the community college up in Williamsburg that's got other programs like dental hygiene programs and cybersecurity programs and that kind of stuff for our kids? Because we've got a lot of stuff going on that we need to keep doing. And I really appreciate what Dr. Nichols and what you guys, and especially what all the teachers are doing. So keep doing it. Thanks.
Thank you. Next, we have Jay Bowen.
Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman, board members, and Dr. Nichols, it's great to be up here tonight and talk to you a little bit about the backpack program. Currently, all 3 elementary schools are participating in a backpack program, and it's all about giving kids something to eat over the weekend or during holidays. Laura Richards manages it at New Kent Elementary School, and my wife, who's a first grade teacher at Quinton, she and I manage it for the other 2 elementary schools. And there's between 70 and 80 backpacks that are filled every week, and about 40 of those come from New Kent Elementary, so kudos to Laura and all the work she's doing there. And the other 30 or so between GW and Quinton. The program is not in the middle school, and it's not at the high school, and as it stands right now, the program is not sustainable. The program is being maintained by several amazing churches, handful of great teachers and parents, and several school organizations. The need is expected to grow, and we need your support to make this program sustainable. Dr. Nichols and I have had several conversations about this, and we're entertaining a course of action, and these are some of the points that we've talked about. Identifying a central location to pack all of the food so we don't have to share resources, all of them come to one place. Using middle and high school students, student programs, along with students looking for community service hours to pack the backpacks. Also, creating a line item in your budget to help sustain the program. Currently, there is a partner in the community giving $1,000 a month for this, and that is not, it's great. It's wonderful to have partners like this, but it's not enough. And my estimation is around $20,000 to $25,000 a year. With that number probably will decrease if we utilize the buying power of the cafeteria and also supplementary money and food coming from the community. Eventually, the program is going to have to grow to deal with or handle or to bless the homeless in our county. There's a number of issues there that can probably be discussed at a later date, but we need your support. We really do. Your support needs to come in the form of human resources, space, and a budget. And I guarantee the faith community is going to continue to do their part to make this program successful, and I'm putting my name there because I'm associate pastor at New Kent Christian Center. And so thank you. I welcome any comment at some later point if you'd like to call me. My number's there, but I appreciate your time. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you very much, Jay. Our next speaker is Eve Alphonse.
Hello. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I know we've heard from the teachers and the students. Do you want me to pause? Are we good? Okay. Oh, okay. Okay, that's fine.
Please give her another 20 seconds, please.
But I just wanted to start off by saying we've heard so much from the teachers and the students, and we've heard about the great programs. So what I'm going to talk about are some things for opportunities for improvement to continue our education to advance it. And a lot of the conversation I'm having are going to be specific to the high school. But I think it could be applicable to maybe the middle school as well. And then starting off with my last board meeting, when we were here last time, I talked about 3 areas of improvement. And I think we talked about one already, the multiple assignments and locations, that it's causing confusion for students and parents, especially for those that have unorganized students like myself. And we had talked about having a place where all of it's listed in one location, and I know Dr. Nichols and Mr. Miller had talked about that they're already working on that, so that's a great thing to hear. The other thing, the second part that we talked about last time was the lack of parent-teacher events at the high school, and we had talked about having open house and back-to-school night each semester like we did in years past, and I think there was conversation that might be on its way coming for next, I guess, a school year near you. And that's awesome. That's very great to hear. And then the third is talking about the inconsistent application of discipline at the high school and not always being in accordance with the the student-parent code of conduct handbook. And I know there's been some conversation about that to look at having maybe an independent or an outside of the administrators to review just to make it consistent. It's consistent with the handbook, but also consistent across all students. But tonight, I'd also like to talk about real quick the reduced academic offerings at the high school. Currently, the highest a student can go for an in-person for the high school for a foreign language, specifically Spanish, is Spanish 3, and for math, it's trigonometry. In the past, the high school offered up to Spanish 6 and had pre-calculus offering in person. Not offering in-person pre-calculus at the high school is an issue, a major issue. For example, my oldest son took Spanish 6 and also had pre-calculus at the high school, and then was able to go on to successfully take the college-level courses offered at the high school through the dual enrollment, pre-calculus and dual enrollment calculus, all in person. This allowed him to be very competitive for college, and currently the students don't have that. And I understand a lot of that's due to the teacher shortage, and I know that there's efforts underway to try to figure out what we can do to improve that. So that's kind of the conversation there, and I know, I think I heard some good news from Dr. Nichols that we might have Spanish 4 next year, so that's another great news, so I'm excited to hear that that might be an opportunity, and they're still looking for the math challenges. Lastly, and probably most importantly, I'd like to highlight a high school education professional that I think is very, very, very amazing. I'd like to take this opportunity to highlight Miss Alfield, Liz Alfield. She's a guidance counselor at the high school, and she is always available, actively listens, and collaborates with students and families to come up with a plan to address concerns. Not only does she, oh, my time up? Well, thank you. I just wanted to say thank you to Liz.
Thank you. Next, Kara, could you come and speak to us?
I noticed you didn't want to try to pronounce my last name. That's okay, I completely understand. La Rochelle. If you break it down, it's a lot less intimidating. Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, school board members, Dr. Nichols, staff, and fellow taxpayers. I'm Carol La Rochelle and reside in District 4, 10,500 Pocahontas Trail. I'm here tonight to advocate for a substantial pay raise for our teachers and staff. The main objective of any successful school system should be educational achievement. Accomplishing this goal requires not only attracting, but retaining the best educators possible. Based on the most recent data available from Virginia's DOE site, New Kent's average teacher pay was 12.5% below the state average. I'm going to say that again, 12.5% below the state average. To close this gap, I would strongly encourage a complete and thorough review of staffing. Any areas of redundancy or wasteful spending should be eliminated. Our teachers deserve better, and more importantly, our students deserve better. I would encourage quick and swift action. And I don't know if you noticed the Daily Press article that they published just today. The average price of a home in New Kent is 435,000. That's up 50% from 2021, and which is the most recent data available. That's a 50% increase, and our teachers are 12.5% below the state average. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Next, may we hear from Susan McTheory?
It's McTheany, but that's okay.
I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. Good evening, school board chair and members of the board and Dr. Nichols. I am Susan McTheany, and I'm a grandparent, and I've been concerned for a couple of years. And I'd like to open my remarks with a short reading from a book called The Hiding Place, The Story of Corrie ten Boom. And it's read so it sounds like it's me talking, but it's her. And it's to help emphasize the fact that we really need to pay attention to some of the things. I mean, the budget's important, but also those things that fall into that social, emotional aspect for our kids. So I'll begin reading. Sex, I was pretty sure, meant whether you were a boy or a girl, and sin made my Aunt Tanty Jane very angry, but the two together meant I could not imagine. And so seated next to my father on the train, I suddenly asked, Father, what is sex in? He turned to look at me, as he always did when answering a question, but to my surprise, he said nothing. At last he stood up, lifted his traveling case from the rack over our heads, and set it on the floor. Will you carry it off the train, Corrie? He said. I stood up and tugged at it. It was crammed with the watches and spare parts he had purchased that morning. It's too heavy, I said. Yes, he said, and it would be a pretty poor father who would ask his little girl to carry such a load. It's the same way, Corrie, with knowledge. Some knowledge is too heavy for children. When you're older and stronger, you can bear it. For now, you must trust me to carry it for you. And that again was from The Hiding Place. We are asking our children to carry loads that are way too heavy for them. They should not be forced as children to see and feel the world through the lens of adults. Innocence is worth protecting and worth fighting for. We need to do our part as teachers, parents, and caregivers to carry certain things for them until they are old enough to bear the load. To the school board members, congratulations on your election, and a reminder that with great authority comes great responsibility, and we are held accountable. I want to thank you for caring enough to run. I appreciate the fact that you were elected. I thank you for the 6:30 start time. It may not immediately increase attendance, but it demonstrated that you're listening. Thank you, Dr. Nichols, for the Community Advisory Committee that you established last year. You've given us another way to voice our concerns. There are a lot of positive things happening in New Kent schools, but all public schools today are a reflection of the problems in our society. We must work together to protect our children physically and emotionally. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Our next speaker is Leslie Trivett.
Hi, I'm Leslie Trivett, proud mama bear of 2 Quentin Cub bears. I was not going to speak about language instruction, but when I was in school in the Bronze Age, we had 6 years of language available beginning in junior high. I took 4 years of Latin and 2 years of Russian, and I was an average student. Webster's dictionary defines retreat as coming from the Latin retrahere. See what 4 years of Latin will do for you? It means to draw back, to pull back. You have a retreat coming up soon. I'm thinking of this word for you all. It's a verb meaning to withdraw from enemy forces. Thank goodness you all don't have enemy forces here. Everybody here supports you. The second meaning is to move back or withdraw. So I hope you'll get to withdraw and move back and take a breath. The third meaning is a quiet or secluded place in which one may rest and relax. And I hope you'll be able to do that while you're working for the citizens of New Kent. I ask you during this retreat, to establish a committee of standards and review for library and classroom materials. Now, this process is closely held by a very few people. It should be more inclusive of the wider community. It should be comprised of parents, citizens, teachers, librarians, and students. The purpose should be to study and evaluate best practices and return to the board with recommendations for, among other things, the selection process and selection criteria. We have limited taxpayer money available for our libraries. It should be used wisely on only the most beneficial and only the highest of quality materials to support student excellence. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. So now we're going to move on to our action items. First up will be the approval of the CIP transfer PA equipment. Do I hear a motion to approve the CIP transfer PA equipment?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second.
A motion and a second has been made. Is there any discussion? Then I move to a vote.
Mr. Reimer?
Aye.
Mr. Vaught?
Aye.
Mr. Pagano?
Aye.
Ms. Cunha?
Aye.
The motion's carried. Next is the approval of the textbook transfer and appropriation request. Do I hear a motion to consider this?
So moved.
A second?
I second.
Is there any discussion? No discussion. I move to a vote.
Mr. Reimer?
Aye.
Mr. Vaught?
Aye.
Mr. Pagano?
Aye.
Ms. Cunha?
Aye.
Next on our list is the approval of the preschool curriculum adoption. This is the Frog Street curriculum. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
A second?
I second.
Any discussion? Let's move to a vote.
Mr. Reimer?
Aye.
Mr. Vaught?
Aye.
Mr. Pagano?
Aye.
Ms. Cunha?
Aye.
And our final action item is the approval of the K-5 literacy curriculum adoption. And we are going to be voting on a 3-year adoption, unless there is any amendment. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
A second?
I second.
Any discussion? I move to a vote.
Mr. Reimer?
Aye.
Mr. Vaught?
No.
Mr. Pagano?
Aye.
Ms. Cunha?
Aye.
The motion carries 3-1. That's all of the action items. Next, we'll move to the comments by the school board members and superintendent. And I feel I should offer Mr. Vaught the first opportunity to comment.
First, let me say that I am not in favor of, or I'm not against the curriculum, not at all. It's a very impressive curriculum. My vote against it was the process and the length of time, and my fear of exterior or external, rather, decisions that are made that may affect it. But there's no doubt that it is a fine curriculum and it'll do a tremendous job. And I'm glad that we're getting it. Also, I'd like to thank all the citizens who came and gave their comments. That's so important to this board. It's so important that we hear from all the citizens and especially the teachers. And I can tell you, I can speak on behalf of the board. We are big fans and admirers of our teaching staff, administrative staff for New Kent County. And as far as the position, according to the Daily Press article, where we are positioned, I can tell you that we're working diligently, and Dr. Nichols also, everyone's working diligently to change those statistics. And I would just remind you that we're involved in a marathon, not a sprint, and you eat an elephant one bite at a time. And that's, so we've got a big task ahead of us, but I believe with everything and everyone involved, we can do that. Thank you.
Keith, would you like to speak?
Yes. Did you say Keith?
Yeah, Mr. Pagano.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm having trouble hearing on the phone. Very quickly, thank you to everyone who participated, and thank you to my fellow board members for accommodating my virtual appearance.
Thank you, Mr. Pagano. Ms. Kuma?
I just want to say thank you for everyone for showing up, for the people who spoke and shared your opinions and your advice. We value your opinions, and we welcome you to continue to do so. That's part of a community and Team New Kent approach, and just making sure that we work together for the best outcomes for our students in our community. Thank you very much.
And I would like to thank the team that put together the presentations on the curriculum. I thought you guys did an excellent job. You responded to our questions, and I really appreciate that. It was very thoughtful. Ross, your team did a great job. In addition, I appreciate the attendance here tonight. We do want the community to participate in these meetings, and it's our school, it's the community's school, and we really believe that. Thank you to those who spoke tonight. All of you had very thoughtful things to say, and we appreciate that. Mr. Nichols, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just want to thank the staff, and I get to work with the most incredible staff, students, families there is. You got to see some of that tonight. It's just awesome. Happy second semester. We are moving downhill to the end of the year. We will be at the College of William & Mary before you know it with graduation, Ms. Lovett. It's right around the corner. So I do want to say a special thank you to our January grads. We had a number of students graduate in January who embody our 3 E's. We have kids that are going young adults that are going right into the workforce and have great careers. We have students who are going post-secondary, and we have awesome kids like Ethan Baines who are enlisting and are already, well, actually he'll be off next month, but going to serve our country. So just embodying our mission. And like I said throughout the presentation tonight, thank you, board, for being so involved and so active and making us better. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
So our next meeting will be the retreat. That's February 29th. Then following that will be our regular meeting, the March 4th. So thank you all, and I'm going to move to adjourn.